Hey guys, before I move on from this project, I wanted to take a few minutes and talk about what I hope people actually took away from this series. The reason I made this series was for the smaller sellers. The people just getting started, the people sitting on a lot of inventory wondering if they should start selling, the people who are interested in selling but are afraid to take the first step. I wanted to show the reality of selling, not just the wins, not just the big numbers, but the entire process. The slow days, the frustrating days, and the small victories, and what it actually looks like to work your way up toward a goal one day at a time. And after 6 days, I think there are a few important lessons that came from this challenge. The first lesson is simple: don't give up. Every day is progress. That's why I put these words on the spreadsheet. Not because they sounded motivational, because they're true. One thing selling has taught me is that progress doesn't always show up when you expect it to. You can spend hours listing cards, organizing inventory, answering messages, shipping orders, talking on Discord, and it can feel like nothing is really happening. Then suddenly a sale comes through, then another, then another. For instance, today was ridiculous. I had like 35 sales on TCG, and over half of them was um, the Final Fantasy Commander deck. I've got to be close to 900 on that, so the EV of 1100 is real. A lot of people quit because they don't see immediate results. What they don't realize is that the work was already happening, the results were just delayed. The listing you make today might not sell today, but it definitely won't sell if it never gets listed. The next lesson is focus. One thing this challenge showed is selling isn't always exciting. Sometimes it's repetitive or boring. Sometimes it's just doing the same thing over and over and over again. Listing, shipping, communicating, organizing, tracking. The people who succeed aren't always the smartest. They're usually the most consistent. They keep showing up, even on days that aren't exciting, especially on those days. The next lesson is one I think every seller needs to understand. Know your numbers, not just your sales, your actual numbers: revenue, shipping, fees, and profit. Because revenue and profit are not the same thing. For this challenge, I started with a $475 investment. That not counting my shipping material, but with what I've sold, all my shipping material has been paid for 10 times over. So just to keep that separate was made the video seem easier. I mean, add $1.25 to each order for cost, and same thing. By the end of this challenge, total revenue reached over $768. Sounds great, right? But revenue isn't what matters most. Once shipping, platform fees, and expenses were accounted for, the total recovered was $638.85. What's left from the final profit is $163.85. And what's crazy is that's just one. When you take that in multiples of 10 or 100, which there's a lot of really big sellers out there. In what was this, 6 days? So basically, in one week, I net $163. People that do 10 of those a week or 20 of those a week, they're making a pretty good living. Yeah, revenue feels good, profit pays the bills. The next lesson is probably one of the most important: build trust. People don't just buy cards, they buy confidence, they buy reliability, they buy peace of mind. When someone spends money with you, they're trusting you. They're trusting that you'll ship quickly. They're trusting that you'll describe the card honestly. And they're trusting that you'll communicate if something goes wrong. And trust isn't built overnight. It's built through consistency. One order at a time, one conversation at a time, one positive experience at a time. That's why the foundation of Ozark Card Shop has always been quality cards, trusted source, real community. Those aren't just words, they're principles, and the principles that any seller can follow. This might be the biggest lesson from the entire challenge. Trust the process. If you watch the daily updates, you saw days that looked slow, days where progress wasn't exciting, days where numbers weren't jumping off the page. That's where real progress looks like. Success usually isn't one big moment. It's a collection of small actions repeated consistently over time. A listing, shipping, customer interaction, message, review, a social media post, small actions repeated over and over and over again. Then one day results start showing up and people think it happened overnight. It didn't. This they just weren't watching the process. At the bottom of every update, there were four reminders. Don't give up, stay focused, stay hungry. Discipline builds freedom, trust the process. Those weren't there by accident. Those are habits that move people forward, not just in selling cards, but in almost anything worth pursuing. If you're watching this and you've been thinking about selling cards, start. If you've been sitting on inventory, list it. If you've been waiting for the perfect time, there probably isn't one. You don't need a huge store. You don't need thousands of dollars. You don't need years of experience. You just need to begin. Every seller started somewhere. Every successful store started with the first listing. Every collection sold started with a single card. You don't have to know everything. You just have to start. Learn as you go, improve as you go, grow as you go. And finally, thank you for everyone who watched the series. Thank you for everyone who commented, even the negative ones. Thank you to everyone who followed along each day. One of my favorite things about this hobby has always been the community. The conversations, the shared experiences, the willingness of people to help each other learn. That's what makes this hobby special. The Final Fantasy Profit Challenge may be over, but the lessons aren't. Don't give up, know your numbers, build trust, trust the process, and start, because every day is progress. Thank you for following this journey with me. Quality cards, trusted source, real community. And I'll see you on the next one.